You recently finished running NAC3, and now that the dust has settled, how do you feel the event went? Did it exceed expectations, both in quality of the matches and the number of viewers over the course of the tournament? Overall, I think the event went pretty well. So happy with so many things like the player interaction, the quality of casting, the viewer numbers, the quality of the games, and yeah, the feedback from the people on Twitch and on YouTube was just pretty overwhelming as well. So overall, really happy. And when it comes to my expectations, well, the goal was to get 20k, right? And we did have like 27k, something like that. So yeah, clearly exceeded the expectations. Also, I thought we had some drops during the week. I was more expecting like 7, 8k, and even during the week we had like 12k. So that was like obviously like 50% more than we thought. So that was pretty sweet. And quality of the games, well, I think the main factor that you could criticize is how often we saw the same matchups over and over again, right? Chinese against Mayans on Riverside Fortress, Chinese, Mayans, Aztecs on Arabia, and so forth and so on. And that becomes pretty natural, right? With the 5-day group stage, there's no way that we can have a shift in meta there. And the only option is to kind of force a shift by like banning civilizations or have a very complex daily changing draft system. So I think the quality of games was really good. Maybe the variety of Civ choices wasn't that great. What were the main differences that you noticed between NAC2 and NAC3? Oh, main difference between NAC2 and NAC3. Well, obviously, the pressure was completely different, right? Microsoft giving me 5k, Matt Salsa just donating so much without really expecting anything back in NAC2 gave me a total different situation. Now NAC3, Microsoft hands me 50k and basically says, we will trust your judgment. And then I'm sitting there like, what is my judgment? Why do they trust me that much? And therefore, I really need to deliver. And it was a bit different. So way more eyes on me, and well, we just stepped it up. Obviously, the overlay guy involvement was way bigger for NAC3 as well, and that was basically the main difference in my end. There was one qualifying spot available to players at NAC3. Do you think that it is important that tournaments continue to offer qualifiers to lesser known players? Does it help the scene keep producing new talent, provide an incentive for top 20 players to keep improving? Interesting topic. So for an offline tournament, I think it's completely different compared to an online tournament, right? For an online tournament, honestly, you don't need any direct invitations. And maybe it even hurts the tournament if we do invitations. For an offline tournament, it is completely different, right? We had so many issues with the visas, Mr. Yo, Vivi. If I'm doing no invitation, then Mr. Yo could not have come. And Vivi, even less chance, right? And someone like Winchester might not come because his visa takes some weeks as well. So if I want to have international people come in as a private person, I need to do it invitational. Maybe you could make an argument, only invite 2 Chinese players and not invite anyone else from the that don't need visas. So that was a tricky spot for me, and obviously I got a lot of criticism for that. And in the end, we had, well, one person officially qualifying. In the end, it was 2 because Vivi didn't get his visa. And yeah, pretty happy with the 2 players that did qualify. Obviously, there were a lot of people left out that didn't get even a chance to even try to qualify. But honestly, how good would their showing be if we think about like someone the caliber of like number 30 in the world? They can't qualify, they can't jump in here. But obviously, it kills the motivation for them a bit. I think online tournaments are simply the way to prove yourself, to kind of get into offline tournaments. It is an ugly way to approach it, but that's kind of how it has to work, at least with like my format of NAC. Is NAC 4 something you'd like to do in the future? NAC 4. Obviously, I get that question a lot. And I don't know. Obviously, NAC 3 went great, but we absolutely got to the limits of the apartment, right? Internet problems, like space problems. Organization is tricky. It's like a lot of questions to be answered before I like can even question my motivation, or like the other way around. Like if I'm motivated, I need to ask myself a lot of questions if it's viable to even do here, or if I have to outsource it, or not outsource it, but just take another location. But is it NAC then? So yeah, like the thing is, NAC 4 could happen, and it's basically the same thing as NAC 3. And then there are only two scenarios, right? Either it's worse or it's exactly the same. And that's not, if we want to consider it as a business, a good approach. Because then you can't really win. You can only repeat what you already did. What are your thoughts on Hidden Cup 3, and how did you find your qualifying matches against Casbah? Thoughts on Hidden Cup 3? Well, let's start off with Hidden Cup 1. Initially, it felt like kind of a meme-ish tournament, and I got approached several times earlier, and I always said, yeah, it's not possible. And because you can't hide the identities, obviously everyone in Hidden Cup 1 knew who he was playing against. And suddenly Hidden Cup 2 broke all the viewer records, and now it's the major Age of Empires tournament. So yeah, Hidden Cup 3, obviously a big major thing, and basically the biggest tournament we have, and yeah, massive prize pool. Everyone trains for it, and that's what gets me really excited, right? That people take tournaments so seriously that they won't stream, they practice, and the quality of the games is just going to be so good. And obviously the hidden factor with the revealing is incredibly good for the viewers, that yeah, really involves them even more. And my games against Casbah, well, I think I should be on the same level as Casbah on a lot of things, but me doing Fair Civs Cup directly after NAC kind of blocked me from training at all, really playing the maps, getting into the flow, and therefore I wasn't happy with my performance. And yeah, kind of sad. He played even better than expected, honestly, especially on the non-standard maps. So kudos to him, and we might see more from him. But also, being said, after I saw the bracket, I was not super motivated because I knew I would face Togao next round, and Togao is just an absolute beast. So I didn't give myself a lot of chances there. How was your experience at Escape LAN? Oh, Escape LAN. Well, that's a change of topics. That's obviously a very tricky thing, right? Escape LAN was my dream of how Age of Empires should be, right? Flying in casters, paying the casters. Players are training for one major league. All the clans, the top players, very involved. We have weekly games, high-level entertainment. Microsoft as the main money sponsor behind this. And yeah, that was what I thought would be the future. And then we had those very underwhelming viewer numbers. So everyone knew that was basically the death of Escape AoE, and therefore Escape LAN, not an event that will have a lot of good feelings, because it's kind of an end of an era for me. Given that both NAC 3 and Hidden Cup 3 are 1v1 tournaments, do you feel that there is room for more team game events, or even modifications on the formula, similar to the structure of Escape LAN? Yeah, we need more team game tournaments for sure. At the moment, like the thing is, 1v1 tournaments pull a lot of more, or some more viewers. Therefore, we had the 1v1 tournaments, right? NAC, I can't do team game tournaments here. Hidden Cup, like the identity doesn't really work, and those are the two major tournaments. Team game tournaments would be nice. Escape would be great. I think the ideal tournament at the moment would be like a best of 5. Teams consisting of 4 players. starting with 1v1, or two 1v1s, different players, 1 2v2, different players from the first two, then 1 3v3, and then 1 4v4. And that would be a nice mixture of 1v1s, 2v2s, 3v3, 4v4. Has a nice team spirit as well, and no matter what you like, you're always getting your desired setup. Actually, like the second 1v1 should begin number 4. Yeah. And that would be something great. With an increase in tournament, NAC 3, Hidden Cup 3, Moguls Asia Cup, prize pools, and opportunities for both players and casters, do you believe that Age of Empires is heading into a golden age? A golden age? Well, that's a big word in my opinion. I think the golden age of Empires was 99 till 2002 or something. That was most players, most engagement, massive, or like tournaments with massive player pools, so many eyes on it. Streaming simply wasn't a thing, right? So I think we're heading into the golden age of Empires viewing. That's kind of a difference, simply because now everyone can stream with their PC at home. So many people can watch it. We have incredible viewer numbers. And obviously the Microsoft support is back after we didn't have anything between, I would say, 2002 to 2014, 15. Since we had Escape starting or HD starting, and then we had obviously ECL, and now the investment to NAC and Hidden Cup. So that obviously gives us a lot of wind in our sails as the streamers, as the tournament organizers, as the casters. And that's something really sweet for us. And I think we have great years to come in the Age of Empires universe, but especially for Age of Empires 2, at least till Age of Empires 4 comes out. How do you believe Age of Empires 4 will affect the AoE2 scene when that eventually comes out? Do you believe that Microsoft will continue to support both games? I think it's not really intuitive for Microsoft to support both games. I think Age of Empires 4 will be their main game, and they won't really have too much interest into supporting NAC 2, Age of Empires 2. But I might be wrong, because obviously Age of Empires 1 is pretty big in Vietnam, and they're still supporting Age of Empires 1 DE tournaments. So that could be an option, but I think the main focus will be Age of Empires 4 when it comes out, yeah. When did you first discover the Age of Empires scene? Well, I was playing online, obviously, for when the game basically came out, Age of Empires 2, and started playing on MSN Gaming Zone. And then I found Mr. Fixit Online. That was basically the first strategy site where people uploaded, recorded games, built orders, and that was completely mind-blowing for me. And I was sitting there with a friend. We had a day off at school, and we couldn't believe our eyes how high the level was. New favorite players. There was like spotlight games that we binge watched, and so that was, I believe, 19th of January 2000. How would you say the game has changed over the years? Do you believe that it's a deeper game than it once was during AOC days? A deeper game. I think since we don't have too many team game tournaments, it's not as deep. And obviously a lot of stuff is already figured out and already presented to you, right? At the very start, we needed to figure out how many villagers do I send on sheep that I can constantly produce villagers. How many should I send on wood? What does that actually do? And how good are eco upgrades? And that's all we had to figure out, right? And therefore, figuring that out kind of felt deep to us. Obviously, now that's considered standard. And now we consider something deep is like adjusting your strategy to the map. But let's say in 2 years or 3 years, that's all like super standard. And then we reach another level. So I would say it is the deepness of thinking is pretty different. Or it's actually the same, I want to say. But what we think about is different. Yeah. Now, how has the scene changed since the release of The Forgotten? Yeah, after The Forgotten came out, obviously not a lot of stuff happened because there was no competitive scene. But after we had Rise of Rajas and we had the big first tournaments on HD, then obviously the meta really changed and people really tried to figure out the new civilizations, how should they be played. And yeah, that was a nice phase of Age of Empires where everything felt so new and there was so much to be explored. How have you found the transition from Woobly? Do you feel like the top players are in favor of sticking with DE? I struggled a lot at the start to transition from Woobly to DE. I think especially like my first 50 to 100 games were really bad, so much misclicking, I didn't adjust to so much, my unit movement was weird, obviously the game was so pretty buggy as well. And now I think I'm pretty much on the same level as I was on Woobly when it comes to the feeling. With the other players, it is mixed, right? Some people feel, okay, there's so many more features. DE is simply the better game. But you also have to say that Woobly had some other factors that were still better than what we have with DE now. So I think everyone is on DE because we have the tournaments there. And the most of the competitive scene therefore had to switch. In your opinion, how has Definitive Edition changed the scene? For example, have you noticed a spike in popularity? A spike in popularity. Obviously, the viewer numbers did increase a lot and the player numbers did increase as well. So that's something that is pretty obvious. And I just see so many new people on my stream, in the chat, that said like, oh, I played the game when I was a kid and now I'm back. What's the best Civ for beginners and so forth and so on. So yeah, surely a big increase. What are your hopes for the future of the scene? Hopes for the future of the scene? Well, probably continued Microsoft support. Maybe hoping that other sponsors are jumping in. If we think in a smaller margin, having team game tournaments, having streamers work together for a change. Yeah, that's kind of the dream. What is it about the game that allows for older players to stay at the top of the scene? For example, Dowd or Tim. Unpopular opinion. I think Dowd and Tim can only still be top 20 because the competition is so low and people aren't tryharding that much, and we don't have a lot of players that are full-time that are at the moment behind them in skill. I think that's the main reason. Sorry. Do you feel like there's a real next generation of players coming through, like Hera, Nili? If not, is this a worry of the scene? Well, I'm not really sure if we can still call them like the next generation, right? Hera was for me already world class late 2000 or mid 2018. Nili even longer, probably on top of the world since 2016. After that, we have no one really breaking into the top 10. Like, you could maybe make an argument for someone like Belize making a jump, but he was Woobly number 1 2 years ago as well. Then we have Antagonist jumping in. There is no like super new names that are now coming with DE. And I think that would be nice. That would be refreshing. Someone new to cheer for, could bring a new audience, for example, like the StarCraft streamers, like Marine Lore or something. If he became like top 10, that would be really good for the scene, I think. And not having that kind of gives us the problem with like invitations that we said earlier, right? If I want to invite the top 6, obviously the top 6 didn't really change over the last 3-4 years. So that's why we have the same matchups over and over again. And that's why Hera is so popular at the moment, because not a lot of people had him on his radar, like maybe even a year ago. What are your thoughts on the new civs and balance changes? New civs. Well, I like some concepts. For example, like humans, I think they're super interesting. And then on the other side, I think something like Tatars are really like lazy design, nothing too special for them. And yeah, I think that's a civilization we didn't need. Obviously, you need to have new civilizations to properly sell the game. And balance, I think we're in the best spot the game has ever been, right? There's an active Discord at the moment. We're trying to get a patch out every month. And yeah, we have seen big changes when it comes to balancing coming out every month at the moment since the release. And I think we are heading into a good direction. Obviously, a lot of stuff that we need to fix, and also people confuse a lot that not every civilization can be viable in every situation on every map. And I think that's what it should be, but people kind of confuse that fact with poor balancing. What is it about Age of Empires that keeps you coming back to the game after all these years? I think it's that I really like to get deep into topics. And if I was worse in Age of Empires as either a caster or a player, I wouldn't be that interesting. I think Age of Empires is not the best RTS. And it's really ugly to say that, probably. But I'm so good at it that I really like feel the passion to get better and try to reach close to the top, and yeah, really get deep thoughts into it. And that's why I love Age of Empires so much. It was the same with poker. Oh, I see we are running out of time. Thank you for the interview, Mr. Nili AoE. Goodbye, Hippo lovers.